Ex-Marine principal takes down school bullies, powerful parents can't stop her. An inspiring story by Heartfelt Tales. The security camera footage was crystal clear. 3 boys cornering one smaller student in the hallway, shoving him against the lockers as his books scattered across the floor. But what made Principal Sarah Martinez's blood run cold wasn't just the violence, it was the timestamp showing this had happened every day for the past 2 weeks, and somehow, no teacher had reported it. If this story resonates with you, please like, share, and subscribe to Heartfelt Tales for more inspiring stories. Sarah leaned back in her office chair, her jaw clenched with the same determination that had carried her through 2 tours in Afghanistan as a Marine Corps officer. At 42, she had traded her military uniform for civilian clothes, but the warrior's heart still beat strong within her chest. She had seen enough injustice in her lifetime to know that evil thrives only when good people do nothing. The bullied student was Marcus Thompson, a quiet 15-year-old whose academic brilliance was overshadowed only by his social awkwardness. The bullies were led by Brandon Ashworth, whose father happened to be the largest donor to the school district and sat on the board of trustees. The other 2 boys, Jake Morrison and Tyler Wells, came from similarly influential families that had deep roots in this small Connecticut town. Sarah had taken the principal position at Riverside Academy just 6 months ago, leaving behind her role as a high school vice principal in the inner city. She thought a prestigious private school would be a peaceful change of pace. How wrong she had been. She called Marcus to her office first. The boy entered hesitantly, his shoulders hunched forward as if trying to make himself invisible. Dark circles under his eyes told the story of sleepless nights, and the way he flinched when she gestured to a chair broke her heart. "Marcus, I know what's been happening to you," Sarah said gently, her voice carrying the same calm authority she had used to comfort wounded soldiers. "And I want you to know that it stops today." Marcus looked up for the first time, his eyes wide with a mixture of hope and disbelief. "You can't stop them, Principal Martinez. Nobody can. Brandon's dad basically owns this school." "Son," Sarah said, leaning forward, "I've faced down insurgents in Kandahar. I think I can handle some teenage bullies, regardless of who their parents are." For the next hour, Marcus opened up about months of torment. The physical bullying was just the beginning. Brandon and his crew had created fake social media accounts to humiliate him online, spread rumors about his family's financial struggles, and even vandalized his locker with cruel messages. The worst part? Several teachers had witnessed incidents but turned a blind eye, unwilling to confront students from powerful families. That afternoon, Sarah called the 3 bullies to her office. Brandon Ashworth strutted in with the arrogance of someone who had never faced real consequences. At 16, he was already showing signs of the entitled cruelty that wealth without accountability often breeds. "Let me guess," Brandon said, dropping into the chair with practiced insolence, "Marcus has been crying to you about us having a little fun." Sarah's expression remained stone cold. "What I witnessed on the security footage wasn't fun, Mr. Ashworth. It was assault. And it ends now." Brandon laughed. "You're going to suspend me? Good luck with that. My father will have you fired before dinner." "Your father doesn't scare me," Sarah replied evenly. "I've been shot at by people far more dangerous than a small-town businessman with an inflated ego." The confidence in Brandon's eyes flickered for just a moment, but he quickly recovered. "We'll see about that." Within hours of suspending all 3 boys, Sarah's phone began ringing. First came the call from Superintendent Williams, his voice tight with anxiety. "Sarah, we need to talk. The Ashworth family is, well, they're very upset." Then came the formal meeting with the Board of Trustees. Sarah sat in the austere conference room, facing 7 stern faces, with Robert Ashworth leading the charge. He was a man accustomed to getting his way, his expensive suit and gold watch serving as armor in a world where money was power. "Principal Martinez," Ashworth began, his voice dripping with condescension, "I think there's been a serious misunderstanding about my son's behavior." "There's no misunderstanding," Sarah replied firmly. "I have video evidence of your son and his friends physically and emotionally abusing another student. This behavior is unacceptable, regardless of any family connections." Board member after board member expressed their concerns about Sarah's hasty actions and suggested that boys will be boys and perhaps alternative solutions could be found. The pressure was immense, designed to make her back down. But Sarah had learned something in the Marines that these privileged men had never understood: sometimes the right thing to do is also the hardest thing to do. "Gentlemen," she said, standing up with the same poise she had once displayed addressing her troops, "I took an oath when I became an educator to protect all students under my care. I will not break that oath because it's financially inconvenient." The meeting ended with veiled threats about her job security, but Sarah walked out with her head held high. The real battle was just beginning. Over the next week, Sarah faced a campaign of intimidation that would have broken a lesser person. Anonymous complaints were filed against her with the state education department. Her car tires were slashed in the school parking lot. Rumors spread through the community questioning her competence and mental stability. The three boys, meanwhile, returned to school after their brief suspension with renewed arrogance. They had learned that their parents could shield them from consequences, and they began targeting not just Marcus but any student they perceived as weak or different. Sarah knew she needed allies, but they were hard to find. Many teachers supported her privately but were too afraid for their own jobs to speak publicly. The PTA was dominated by the same families whose children were the problem. Even some parents of bullied students were reluctant to get involved, fearing social and economic repercussions in the tight-knit community. But Sarah hadn't survived in the Marines by giving up when the odds were stacked against her. She began documenting everything meticulously, building an ironclad case. She reached out to her network of veteran friends, some of whom worked in law enforcement and legal fields. Most importantly, she started building relationships with students like Marcus, creating a culture where victims felt safe to speak up. The breakthrough came when she established an anonymous reporting system and discovered that Brandon's crew had been tormenting dozens of students for years. She gathered testimonies, documented evidence, and most crucially, found other adults willing to stand with her. Mrs. Janet Foster, the school librarian and a 30-year veteran educator, was the first to publicly support Sarah. "I've watched good kids suffer in silence for too long," she declared at a faculty meeting. Principal Martinez is the first administrator with the courage to actually do something about it. Slowly, more teachers found their voices. Dr. Robert Chen, the AP chemistry teacher, revealed that he had witnessed multiple incidents but had been discouraged from reporting them by the previous administration. Sarah realized the problem was systemic, rooted in years of looking the other way when it came to influential families. The turning point came during a particularly vicious incident. Brandon and his friends cornered Marcus in the gymnasium after school, their attack more violent than ever before. But this time, 3 other students, inspired by Sarah's message that bystanders had the power to be heroes, intervened and recorded everything on their phones. The video went viral on social media within hours, showing not just the attack but the indifference of a coach who walked by without intervening. The community could no longer pretend ignorance, and the media attention brought scrutiny that even the wealthy families couldn't suppress. Sarah called another board meeting, but this time the room was packed with parents, students, and community members who had finally found the courage to speak out. The dynamic had completely shifted. "Mr. Ashworth," Sarah addressed Brandon's father directly, "your son's behavior isn't just harmful to other students, it's harmful to him. By shielding him from consequences, you're raising a young man who believes he's above the law and basic human decency." The father's face was red with anger and embarrassment as video after video played, showing his son's cruelty. Other parents shared tearful testimonies about their children's suffering. The board, faced with overwhelming evidence and public pressure, had no choice but to support Sarah's disciplinary actions. Brandon, Jake, and Tyler faced real consequences for the first time in their lives: extended suspension, mandatory counseling, community service, and participation in anti-bullying programs. More importantly, the school implemented new policies that would prevent future cover-ups. But Sarah's greatest victory wasn't in punishing the bullies, it was in watching Marcus transform. With the support system she had helped create, he began to stand taller, speak up in class, and eventually became a peer mediator helping other students facing similar challenges. Months later, Sarah stood in her office looking at a letter from Marcus, now thriving at a prestigious STEM program. He wrote, "Principal Martinez, you taught me that courage isn't about being fearless, it's about doing what's right even when you're terrified. You didn't just save me from bullies, you taught me how to save myself." The letter reminded Sarah why she had left the military for education. In both careers, she was fighting for something bigger than herself, protecting those who couldn't protect themselves and creating a better world through individual acts of courage. Her phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Foster. "Sarah, we just had our first month with 0 bullying incidents reported. The culture you've built here is incredible." Sarah smiled, remembering her drill sergeant's favorite saying, "A Marine's mission doesn't end when they leave the service, it just changes uniforms." As she prepared to leave the office that evening, Sarah reflected on the past year. The battle had been brutal, and there were moments when she questioned whether the fight was worth the personal cost. But looking at the photos on her wall, Marcus accepting an academic award, former bullies working together on community service projects, and teachers standing proudly with students they had helped, she knew every sleepless night and every threatening phone call had been worth it. The real measure of her success wasn't in the policies she had changed or the bullies she had disciplined. It was in the culture of respect and courage that now permeated Riverside Academy. Students no longer walked the halls in fear. Teachers felt empowered to intervene when they witnessed injustice. And most importantly, every child in the school had learned that they mattered, regardless of their family's social status or bank account. Sarah had brought more than military discipline to her role as principal. She had brought the warrior's creed that no one fights alone and no one gets left behind. In doing so, she had transformed not just a school, but an entire community's understanding of what true leadership looks like. Thank you for watching this story from Heartfelt Tales. If this story moved you and reminded you of the power we all have to stand up for what's right, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Your support helps us continue sharing these important stories of courage, resilience, and hope. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads, and please leave a comment below sharing your own thoughts about standing up to bullies or a time when someone stood up for you. Together, we can create a community where everyone feels valued and protected.